Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twillow Talk. I'm Tanis Coggin from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy, and I am joined by my beautiful co-host, Jennifer Tchaikovsky from My Holistic Self. And today we have an awesome guest, Kevin Briggs. Welcome, Kevin. It's so exciting to have you on.
Hi, Tanis. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's an honor to have you. So we'll go ahead and we'll do our usual sort of update that we usually do as we're waiting for people to come on. And Jen, if you don't mind doing the transits first, please, if you're ready.
I can absolutely do that.
Please, that would be great.
So today is the last day that we are in the gate 4 of Youthful Folly. This is formulation. This is the energy of gaining a little bit of clarity. Not all the answers, but some clarity in terms of where we want to move our energy and what direction we're looking to move in. So it's that gift again of understanding. Tomorrow and then through the rest of the week, we are going to be in the gate 29. This is the gate of the abysmal. It's the gate of saying yes. So the energy here is about the energy to persevere despite the circumstances. So we're moving from the shadow of half-heartedness into the siddhi of devotion through the gift of commitment. This is the heart of this is energy, right? The gate 29 or the gene key 29 asks us to look at what we are saying yes to and whether we are actually showing up for that yes. So sometimes we might say yes because we genuinely feel called to something. Sometimes we say yes because of obligation or excitement, or maybe there's a fear of disappointing someone, that people pleasing that can show up. And sometimes we say yes because we don't know how to say no, right? And so we find ourselves maybe physically present in something, but not energetically there. Energetically, we might have that one foot out the door, kind of, showing up for us. And so the deeper teaching this week is that our life force is going to follow our commitment. So when our yes is wholehearted, our energy will gather behind us. We have the ability to move through it. But if we're in that shadow energy, that half-heartedness, that's about being in something without really being in it. So if you find that you're overcommitting or second guessing, or, sometimes we're in something and we're just kind of looking for the exit or the way out of it. If you see that energy is what is showing up for you, just notice, because there's two sides actually to this shadow. One is that, sometimes we just have to admit that this was never really a yes for me. And there's a change that needs to happen. But the other side of that is that sometimes we recognize that this is actually still a yes. It's just hard right now. And I need to be okay with navigating that hard. So, being able to do that self-check and learning the difference between the two. And that means coming back to ourselves and asking, right, is this really still a yes? Am I still wholeheartedly committed? That's the gift of this energy to this thing. So it doesn't mean that we know how it's going to turn out or that it's always going to be easy. But if we're wholeheartedly committed, we're in it, right? We're willing to see it through. And we have, again, that energy to back us up, right? This is that conscious commitment that's going to also require a conscious no. That was the mystic message for this Monday, is the sacred no. Because in order for us to really say yes to something, we're going to have to say no to something else. That's just how our energy flows. And so every honest no actually will preserve energy for the things that we truly want to say yes to. So the deeper teaching here really is the distinction between those two shadows, right? Difficulty doesn't necessarily mean that you chose wrong. Sometimes something is difficult and it isn't ours. Sometimes something is difficult and we're wholeheartedly in it and we really want to keep going. So instead of immediately going like, did I make the wrong choice? Maybe asking ourselves like, is this still a true yes for me? And if it is, instead of trying to figure out how to get out of it, it's like, okay, how can I arrive more fully in this energy? So a couple reflections to go with this week. Where am I physically present, but energetically only halfway in? What in my life still feels like a genuine yes, even if it's difficult? And what might I need to say no to so that I have more of myself available for what truly matters? And the affirmation for this week, I honor the wisdom of my yes and my no. I choose to give myself wholeheartedly to what is truly mine. And I trust myself to recognize what asks for commitment, what asks for release, and what is meant to become devotion.
Well, that is a huge question because, I think we all struggle with those things all the time. Yeah.
And the fact that we have the energy right now to kind of help cultivate that within us.
Yeah.
So taking advantage of that by doing the reflections and seeing, what comes forward for us.
Definitely.
So I'll put the affirmation in the chat.
Awesome. And we'll do this. And let's take a look at the Schumann. So we have the powers at 46 today. So a little bit elevated, right? 7.8 hertz is the baseline frequency. And for solar flares, it's been fairly quiet, actually. Nothing up in the M class, which is fairly quiet. We have had a KP index that has actually been quite quiet as well. But this does not change the fact that we have had eclipse energy. We have had a new moon energy. We have had an eclipse energy. We had the eclipse already, but it still carries through. So we're still feeling that and probably will be for another week. It goes usually to 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after you can feel it. The strongest should be waning a little bit now, but we still sort of will have a little bit of a this is chaotic kind of feeling. So yes, and the fatigue, welcome. Nalani, welcome. Yes, that is part of that, right? The energy tanks are empty. We definitely have that as part of this energy. I think everybody that I've spoken to in the last 2 weeks has been, I'm just tired.
That's where the sacred no is so valuable. It is okay to take a step back, to not have to do all the things, to not have to show up for everything, to just be in that space.
Where'd she go?
We lost her, didn't we? No,
We did.
Her energy, but she can find it and come back.
She'll come back.
Nobody
There she is.
know what space that was. It's the space of the void, clearly.
As soon as she mentioned energy, she disappeared. That's what it was.
She's magical, that one.
I mean, what a perfect illustration of what I was about to say. I didn't have to say it. It just did it.
That's how they work. Awesome. Well, Kevin, please tell us about you.
Okay, well, I must thank you first for inviting me on your show. You're both very interested in the subject, and you do a lot of work in relation to that. So, and I've had a long life with contact with our star families, with our spirit realms, with the different realms of consciousness. So, and several years ago, the reason why I speak out about it, I'd got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And then I returned to get into bed. And before I snuggled down, there was a bright light outside the bedroom window. The light then came through the window, lit up the bedroom like a myriad of butterflies, but it was just pure white light. And then two beings, who I first met when I was 8 years old, materialized at the bottom of the bed. And after pleasantries, I asked them what they wanted, why were they here. and they said they wanted me to talk about my lifelong contact with them. They wanted me to write about it. And I remember saying to Ort, that's one of the guides, I said, well, I don't mind talking about it, but I'm not a writer. And he said, well, we will continue to guide you. We will continue to teach you, and you will write 2 books. So I said, okay. I said, yes, I can do that. So, and that was about 7 or 8 years ago now. So that's why I speak out. But I have to thank the 2 of you, because without people like yourselves, I can't get the message out there. I've been asked to share the knowledge and information that they've been imparting to me from the age of 8, really. It's been a long, it hasn't been a long journey, because it's part of my normal life. It's part of my normal education. It's just that I'm educated by 2 beings who are 5th dimensional beings. Their names are Ort and Dee, male and female. They are a couple, and their profession is a guide and teacher. That's what they do. They're guides and teachers. So I'm happy talking about it, but I have to express my gratitude to both of you for allowing me to talk about it for half an hour or so on your show. So thank you again. So I always think the best place to start is right at the beginning. So I'll start at the beginning, and we'll go all the way through, and you can ask questions, interrupt me anytime you want. I'm quite happy talking about it, and I can pick up the thread again. So, and if you get any questions in the comments, I'm quite happy if you do ask them, and I can answer them as we go along, or we can wait until the end, but whichever suits you. So if I start at the beginning then, I was 3 years old. My mother had engaged a photographer to take some photographs for the family album. The photographer arrived. I was lifted up onto the dining room table for a better elevation for the photograph. And from that position, as a 3-year-old, I looked around the room and I realized my conscious energy was in a physical body again. It was like 2 parts of me, the conscious energy and the physical form that you could actually touch and feel. And that stayed with me for quite a number of years. It'd been like a symbiosis of 2, the consciousness and the physical, still aware of one another, the 2 separate stages. And then it sort of merges into the one stage of the physical, as it were. So that's the beginning of my journey when I was 3 years old. The second experience I had, I was 8 years old. I was taking a bath at home, and I was always sensitive to the frequencies that surround us. Jennifer's mentioned something about frequencies today. So I was always sensitive to those frequencies as a child. I could sense the changes in a room if a deceased person came into the room. And on this occasion, I sensed a change in the frequency in the bathroom. I looked to my right and 2 beings appeared. It frightened me to death at the time, as you can imagine, as an 8-year-old boy. The 2 beings were 1 male, 1 female, both very attractive, both with long blonde shoulder-length hair, both with deep blue eyes, wearing a deep blue jumpsuit type garment. And they were speaking telepathically to one another, which I could understand. And they were speaking about me, not to me. Their names are Ort and Dee, and as I said, they are 5th dimensional beings from Andromeda. And the only difference between the dimensions are the frequencies of consciousness that life exists at. So that's the only difference really between the different dimensions. And Dee said to Ort, "Is this the boy?" Ort said, "Yes, this is a boy." And then Dee questioned him and says, "Are you sure this is a boy?" And he said, "Yes." And then she said, "But look at him. He's small, he's uneducated, and he's frightened by our presence." And she was correct. I was terrified. And he said, "Yes, this is a boy. I will guide him. I will teach him." There was some other conversation there, and then they left. As I said, I was so frightened. I didn't get out of the bath. I just sat there in fear, really. The water went cold. My mother came in to see why I was still in the bath. I told her about the 2 beings, and she said it was just my imagination. It wasn't. I'm now 72. I'm still in contact with Ort and Dee, and Ort was correct to his word. He has taught me. He has guided me. They have both taught me and guided me over the number of years that I've been in contact with them. the main thread of the education is one of consciousness and how it can be utilized as a conduit for communication, for travel, for healing, for education, for creation and co-creation. And I think it's important to understand that, because when we understand that, we can communicate with our star families. We can communicate with our deceased family members. We can communicate with the different realms of consciousness, with the other beings that live within those realms of consciousness, all the way up to the angelic realm, up to the divine itself, or herself, or however you perceive the divine to be. So I think the reason why they've educated me is so I can communicate with them and travel with them at their level of consciousness. And because I've done it from childhood, and they didn't sit me down in the classroom like they do with some experiences, they gave me practical examples. A lot of them were out of body, out of the physical realm. And I think that was the importance of my first lesson in understanding the physical and the conscious energy are actually separate, but then they can join together in a symbiosis and create the physical side of our reality. So each little bit that they gave me expanded my knowledge. And I know with some experiences, they'll sit them down in a classroom and actually teach them. I know people have had that happen to them. Mine was slightly different. They were experiences. So that's how it started. And I say it's still ongoing today. I'm still learning. My journey is continuing, and they're bringing other people into my own journey now, which is interesting. So I'll get to that nearer the end. The next experience, I was 9 years old, and I remember all these explicitly. It was a Sunday. I'd had some friends round. We were playing some board games. We'd finished for the day, and they had to go home for their tea. So we packed up the board games. I saw them out the back door. I turned back into the home, and I could feel this frequency that wasn't there before. So I went into the living room looking for this frequency, went into the kitchen, went upstairs into 3 bedrooms. Then I went back into the living room because the frequency was strongest there. I was drawn towards the window. I looked behind the curtains, the drapes, and there was an orb there, a conscious energy orb. It was 4 to 6 inches across, slightly vibrating, golden yellow in color. There was no communication from it at that time. And I wasn't too bothered. I didn't want my mother to see it because I thought I might get into trouble, because I thought I'd brought it into the home for some reason. And I thought, well, when I go to bed tonight and get up in the morning, it will have gone. I went to bed. I woke up in the morning and I knew it was still there. I could feel the frequency. To cut a long story short, it stayed until Friday. I came home from school on Friday. I opened the back door and I couldn't feel the frequency anymore. I went to the window, looked behind the curtain, and it had gone. But from that day on, I was able to travel outside of the physical realm as a pure conscious energy orb myself. I wasn't aware of the full potential then. I am now. I wasn't then. But I think it was the actual orb, I didn't know at the time, I found out later, was Ort's pure conscious energy orb. It was his separation from his physical. And I suspect what they did, our DNA is encoded with light frequencies. And these frequencies can be activated. And I suspect that they activated the frequency of out-of-body travel to assist with the education. As I said earlier, the majority of my education has been out of body, although I do have both, but the majority has been out of body. So as a 9-year-old, though, as I said, I didn't know the full potential. So I just used to go and visit my grandparents. I lived in Wakefield in the UK. They lived in Liverpool in the UK, about 70 miles away. And on a Sunday, I would relax. I'd open my mind, that's what I call it. I'd travel over to their home, enter through the roof, and I would sit in a chair in the master bedroom upstairs, looking down through the floor, which was opaque. I could see my grandmother usually in the kitchen, cooking on a Sunday, my grandfather either watching TV or reading the newspaper. And it gave me great comfort to see them there. And I often wondered what they would see if they'd have come upstairs. I now know the answer to that. They would have seen my pure conscious energy orb, 4 to 6 inches across, slightly vibrating, golden in colour, because I'd separated it from my, as Ort had done when he came into my home when I was 9. So from 9 up until early teens, really, I was constantly using this out-of-body ability that I thought was just a natural human ability. And I think it is. I think we just don't use it. We're not aware of it. I know many people do use it now, but at that time we didn't speak about these things. So that's taken me up to 9 years old now. So I'm traveling out of body. Next thing will be 14. At 14, I had a paper round. And every time I left the house, I would look up and there was a UFO there. And as I'm going down to collect my papers on my bicycle, a second UFO would appear and both would follow me around the paper round. And then when they'd finished, or I'd finished, should I say, one would go straight up into space and the other would go back in the direction from which it had come from. And this was a regular occurrence. And then, but while they were following me, I always got this sense of this frequency again. The other side of the hedge, the other side of the wall. And on one occasion, I plucked up courage and I said, I know you're there. Can you show yourself? And these two small grey beings stepped out from behind the hedge, behind the wall. I wasn't frightened. I said, what do you want? They said, there's a group of people that would like to meet with you. Would you come with us? I said, well, I don't think I can. I've got my paper round to finish and I've got to go to school. And they said, well, you've nearly finished your paper round, but we can let you finish that. And if you do come with us, we'll have you back in time for school. So I agreed to go with them. I was transported to a large mothership. And I believe it was a mothership only because when we pulled into the hangar, it was huge. It was the size of 2 football stadiums, absolutely full of all these different crafts, different shapes and sizes that we see flying around our planet. And so that's why I thought it was a mothership. And then I was led down into an amphitheater. It was full of all different beings. At the center of the amphitheater on the stage was a table with 8 beings. The first 2 beings were Ort and Dee, the 2 I met in my bathroom when I was 8. There was a blue bird type being. Her name was Anna. There was Zark. He's a Pleiadian. He's a small grey. He's a mathematician and engineer. He designs propulsion systems. I know quite a bit about him. I've had a lot of contact with him. And then Ra, he's the leader of this group. He's Anunnaki, a very old, very ancient being. And then Tag, he was a tall grey. And he told me at the time that he was responsible not only for the security of this group of 8, but for this quadrant of the galaxy. And I never thought about the galaxy being split into different quadrants. That's what he told me. Then the next being, I was a little bit perturbed. It was a mantis being. And he was quite tall. Even though they were sat down, I could tell he was a large being, over 6 feet tall, I suspect. And
they're quite impressive, aren't they?
Yes,
I had some come to my backyard.
Wow, I know other people where they come to the backyard as well. I think they're fascinating beings. They're very old. They're very wise. They're very well respected. I get the small ones sometimes in my backyard, and I always go up to them and chat to them and say hello. Because I'm sure they're part of the same family. It's just that they're a little bit smaller here. They're not as large as what the old ones are. So, and then the last one was Orla. She's a tall white. She told me she's an astrobiologist, and she had translucent hair. She had quite a pale complexion, and the hair, I say you could see through it. It was translucent. So that was the 8 beings I was introduced to. Initially, I thought I was there as a human specimen. I know that's not correct now. It was more like a meet and greet, really. I was there to be introduced to them, and they were there to meet me. And I think the reason being was because I was going to be educated by Orton D, and I needed to know that they were part of this group. And I refer to them as the Council of Eight. They've never referred to themselves as the Council of Eight. I've given them that title because there is another being that sits at the right-hand side of Ra, and her name is Shiva. She doesn't have a physical. She's a spiritual being, and she oversees this group of 8. And I did ask her one day if she was the god Shiva of our ancient Egyptian times, and she said no, that she wasn't, and she spelled her name differently. So we really have 9 beings which are working together for the benefit, obviously, of themselves, and now hopefully for humanity. They are benevolent. They are here to assist with our evolution. And part of that evolution is understanding consciousness, and again, how it can be utilized for communication, travel, healing, education, creation, and co-creation. And when we understand that, we become cosmic galactic beings ourselves, because we've elevated ourselves. We've moved along the evolutionary scale and become like they are. We are like they are. We just need to have some more education and then develop our natural human psychic abilities, psychic intelligence, intuition, knowing, empathy, all these out-of-body travel, all these things that we can do, remote viewing, using consciousness itself. And then we can communicate with ourselves on this.
So I'm wondering, Jen, because they're saying something to me that you know, that you would know these people, or that you would, because so Jen is part of the Elders Council. I'm part of the Humanities Council with the Federation. And so I'm wondering, Jen, because they're saying that they're part of the elders, like they might just be a subset, but I'm wondering if that's what you're, and I just got huge chills on that subset of the Elders Council. So
so the Elders Council is very large, and it is composed of all different races and all of that. But within the council, there are sub-councils, as you said. There is councils who are formed for very specific duties that they do. And so depending on where, where that passion is for moving energies forward, different councils are in place. So the Council of 8 is one council, and there's multiple councils of 8, which is also really interesting, because you're talking about this particular council of 8 or 9 but there's some are for like specifically spiritual guidance with people. Some are to bring through different cosmic wisdom and histories and things like that. Some of them are specifically just working on collective consciousness and when working through those energies. So they all have different tasks and duties that they do. So certain councils will be ones that we as humans have more contact with, whereas other councils are going to remain a little bit more
I was going to say aloof, but that's not quite right either.
No,
like it's not
I just went through my head, and I'm like, that none of them are right. Like they're not useless, they're not aloof, they're not. There's like a bit of an anonymity maybe to them, but they're not. It's really more that they just don't have as much contact with us, right? It's not that they don't want to, or that they're hiding in any way. It's just that that's not what their duties are, and so they're not going to be as.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Jennifer, what you said there, because they've told me there are many councils. I'm only in contact with this one particular council that I'm aware of, and it's me that's named them the Council of 8. But what you say makes great sense. Perhaps this Council of 8 are for the education of humanity, and that's their role. And that's where I come into it, and that's why they've educated me to the level of understanding of consciousness, how they use it, how we can use it. So yeah, that makes a great deal of sense to us. So thank you for that, Jennifer. Just clarifying that for me, really, because obviously I don't have all the answers, but I've got a lot of information that I can share with people, and it's amazing, really, how much I do have. But now I find that keep calling them the Council of Eight, are reaching out to other people and connecting me with those people. So myself being isolated with this group of Council of Eight is now expanding. There are other humans that I'm introduced to who have in contact with the Council of Eight. So that in itself is good. And I know my mission here, my mission is to help facilitate the reveal globally of our star family's presence. So I know what that is. So that might be part of the remit of the Council of Eight, educate humanity via humans themselves, educate them in understanding consciousness. So then we can, I see myself as a messenger between the galactics, between the Federation, between the Council of Eight and other species now, because interesting that, a while ago now, maybe a couple of years ago, I listened to Susan Walker, and she was talking about the Penti, and she spells it capital P apostrophe NTI. I had never heard of the Penti, and she'd had contact with them from childhood. And after I listened to the podcast for an hour or so, I thought, I wonder if I can reach out to them. So I reached out using my natural human abilities, and I was able to connect with two Penti. So that was the initial introduction to them. And then I tried again, and I was able to communicate with them. But then what I did, I went onto Sue Walker's website, and the first two that I made contact with were the first two that she'd got listed in the group of Penti that she had contact with. So I got confirmation by going on the website after I spoke to them. And then recently they reached out to me and said that they are supporting the reveal of our star family's presence. So now we've got a group of 8 extraterrestrials. We've got the Penti, and I know the Sasani. I don't have any direct contact with them, but I think it's Bashar. He speaks through Dawalanka, I think, and they're supporting the reveal. So we can see this growing now exponentially because we're evolving our understanding of consciousness. We can connect with the other beings, and then the other beings are here to let us know that they are assisted through people's natural human ability, expanding humanity's collective consciousness. I think the way the story is unfolding, and I say I wouldn't have spoken about any of this. I just kept it all to myself because it didn't seem important. It's just who I am. It's my life. It's my education. But now I realize there's a purpose to it all, and that purpose is to help humanity evolve with the understanding of consciousness. And once we start talking about it, then that expands our collective consciousness just by talking about it. It brings it into the consciousness realms, as it were, of humanity. So that's where I'm at. I've gone off track now, then. See.
That's okay. Yeah, I think your mission is similar to Jen and I. Jen had a download about what our missions are, and you can find those actually on the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact page.
Well, that's amazing. I think that's fascinating because there has to be more people. I've met some others now, but there has to be a lot. It needs a lot of people. I'm not important. I'm getting older now anyway. So there has to be others here. In fact, let me tell you a quick story. Totally off topic, really.
There is no off topic.
Like
Not here.
It's all good.
A young girl from Canada, Chloe Chavigny, they call her, and she's an experiencer, and she saw me talking on the Jeff Marver podcast. So she reached out to me, she contacted me, we had a conversation, and then she did a short interview for a podcast that she does, and she's only 24. And one evening I was woken up at 4:44 a.m. And very often I'm woken up at 111, 222, 333. On this occasion, it was 4:44. and they gave me a message for Chloe. So the following day, I contacted Chloe. I said, I've been contacted by the Council of 8, and I've got a message for you. I can't remember what the message was now. And so I gave her the message. And then I said, what was interesting? I said that they gave me the message at 444. She said, oh, Kevin, 444 is very important to me. I have it tattooed on my body. And I didn't ask where it was because she's only but it's that communication. I didn't have to convey the message, but I got used to conveying message. I didn't think the 444 was important, but clearly it was. It was a confirmation for myself and for Chloe. So that's the level of communication we have as humans if we develop our natural psychic abilities and evolve as a higher conscious being, really, which is what we are. We are all light beings, light frequencies of light, creating a physical reality. So consciousness itself can experience what it's like to be in the physical. So that's my understanding. So I just thought I'd throw that in there because I find it interesting that clearly there'll be experiences here after I've gone, and they will continue the story on. And now it's interesting that the younger people, well, everybody's younger than me now, but but that they will continue the education and the evolution of humanity. And that's what it's about, really. That's the key thing. Right, I'm off track now, but I'll go to my next experience. I'm 17 or 18. I can't remember the exact date. I know where I was, and I used my out-of-body abilities just for simple things. I'd be going to work in the morning. I'd come out to my apartment, and there were 2 bus stops I could walk to get the bus. Very often there was a long line when I got there, so I would leave my body, travel up to that bus stop, travel down to that bus stop, and then walk to the one with the shortest line. Simple things like that. And then I remember on one occasion I was wanted to go for a beer with a friend of mine, Gary. It was a Sunday, and I thought, I'll just nip over and see if he's at home, because we didn't have cell phones then. I didn't have a phone in my apartment. So I left my body, I nipped over, and he's watching TV, laid on the sofa, watching soccer. So I got changed. I walked round to his house, 10 minutes to walk around there. I knocked on the door. Oh, his mother was in the kitchen, by the way, cooking. And I knocked on the door. I saw, is Gary in? He says, no, he's not. I thought, I've just seen him. He was laid on the sofa. And then she followed it up. She said, he's been laid on the sofa all morning watching football. He's gone round to Steve's to see if he wants to go for a pint. So I said, right. So I walked around there. So simple things, but nobody talked about it. So at 17, I thought, I'll ask Ort, because there's much more to this than I know. So I went to bed that evening. I relaxed. I held my hand out and I said, oh, can you come and show me more? I know there's much more to this. And I fell asleep. He came, he took hold of my hand. I left my body. I looked down, I could see it asleep. We went out through the window, flew around the subdivision, and then came back. I saw my body fast asleep and went back into my body. I woke up in the morning thinking that was cool. Nothing unusual other than traveling with someone else rather than doing it on my own. So I thought I'd do the same again the second evening. So the second evening, I did the same again. And he came, he took hold of my hand. This time we went down into Leeds city centre where I was living at the time. I recognised the buildings, the university, the town hall, the hospital, and Leeds was a vibrant city at that time. All the people were milling about within the nightlife there. Came back into my apartment through the window. I was fast asleep, went into my body, woke up in the morning. Still not certain what was happening, whether I was sleepwalking, dreaming or what. So I thought the third time I'll ask him again. But I was concerned about going out through the window because it was concrete pavement below and I was 3 stories up. So same routine again. He came, he took hold of my hand and he said, are you ready? I said, yes, but one thing, can we go out through the roof? I don't like going out through the window because of the reasons I've explained. So we went out through the roof. And all subsequent journeys then we left through the roof. And we traveled many times doing that together. And I got so good at that I could do it on my own without him. And on one occasion, he said to me, Kevin, I'm going to take you somewhere special tonight. Are you okay to come with me? I said, yes. So we set off and we went up, straight up and up. And we kept going until we got into a higher dimension. And within that dimension, there was a line of 30 people. At the head of the line was my deceased father. And I'd never seen him standing before. He was 6 foot tall because when I was born, he was in a wheelchair. He was disabled. And he greeted me. And then he said, Kevin, I'm going to introduce you to your family going back 30 generations. So I went down the line. They all introduced themselves, their names, what occupations they had in their last incarnation. And when I got down to the 15th or halfway down the line, instead of seeing a vision of a person, it was a pure conscious energy orb. But they still communicated telepathically with me. They still told me about their last incarnation. And I went down the line, came back up. And then I got so good at doing that with Art, I didn't need to go with him. I went on my own. I'd meet them. I'd interact with them on a regular basis over a 2-year period. And but it was getting to the point that they always wanted me to stay with them. And the love that animated from this group was tremendous. It was such a draw to stay. But I said, no, I'm enjoying my physical life. I've got things I want to do. And I know you're here when my physical expires, and I will come and meet you then. So on the last visit, I told them that, and I've never been back to see them since. But I know they're there because I saw them over a 2-year period, and I can reach out to them if I want. But I don't need to now. It was a lesson of understanding consciousness as well, of the different levels of consciousness, how life exists at those frequencies. It doesn't need a physical to exist. It can exist as pure conscious energy, a pure conscious energy orb, or a pure conscious energy plasma orb, just more life within the universe, within the cosmos itself. And when we realize that, then we evolve as a species. You see life differently when you understand these things. So that was 1718. And then probably a little bit quieter. I would use the knowledge I had. I'd still travel out of body because I enjoyed doing it. If I got stuck with anything, I would ask Orton D to help me with life's questions. Jennifer mentioned some today, learning to say no. I had to learn to say no because I said yes all the time. I got myself into some right mess because I said yes when I didn't want to do it. So we all have these same lessons to learn, and some of them are physical lessons, so we can enable to be happy within the physical realms. And then some of the spiritual side, the spiritual decisions. And I think within the spiritual realm, you need to learn to say no as well, because I've done that. I've been asked to do things and I've not wanted to do them. Very much like how Jennifer explained it in relation to the energies of me not wanting to do it, but it was important. But then I didn't want to say no because they'd asked me. So it was very similar. I never thought about that until Jennifer mentioned it earlier. I am within the physical, but it's the same within the spiritual realm. But I don't have that now because I can say, no, I'm not doing that. No, I don't want to do that. And I've done that on several occasions. And then they'll say, well, the reason why we want you to do that is A, B, C, and D. So then I can make a further decision and maybe say yes or still say no. We have a peer-to-peer relationship now, which is where we should be if we are dealing with our intergalactic ambassadors, really. That's who they are. So we have to be able to communicate with them at their level of consciousnness. We have to say no. And obviously we have to say yes as well, but we have to be discerning, use those abilities that we have, these psychic, natural, human abilities to help not only with the evolution of ourselves as individuals, but for humanity itself. I think that's the key. That's the key. So that's where we're heading. Anyway, where am I now? Oh, I have some notes in front of me. I was 32. I'll just tell you this one because I know we're running out of time now. 32. I was a police officer at one time in the UK. And on this occasion, I'd done what we call a quick changeover shift. You finish at 10 o'clock at night, you get up at 5 o'clock the following morning, and you go back to work for another 8 hours, and then you come home. And after those double shifts, those quick changeovers, I was always very tired. So I used to go to bed for a couple of hours till my wife came home from work. On this occasion, I'd got into bed, I was just about to snuggle down, and a shadow being appeared. And it looked at me directly in the eye, and it beckoned me like this. Well, I mean, I've seen shadow people all the time. They're a part of consciousness. They are a species. They live between the dimensions of the third and fifth dimension, or the fifth or sixth and seventh. They live between those dimensions and move about as shadows. And shadows are light frequencies, just with less light. So they are light beings still, but with less light in them. And anyway, this one beckoned me, and they don't do that. And I said, no. I said, no, Jennifer, you see, I didn't know you then. And I said, no. I said, no, go away. I'm not interested. I'm going to sleep. And it left through the door. It came back in again, and it beckoned me again. I said, no, go away. I'm not interested. Come back later. It came back for a third time. I said, right, okay. You obviously want to show me something. I'll get up. So it walked off. It walked out through the door. I opened the door, and there's this beam of light from the floor to the ceiling. And it reminds me if you've ever watched Star Trek, where there's that light when they beam down from the craft to the planet. Just like that. So I said, well, you've gone to all this trouble to get my attention. I'll step into the light. So I stepped into it. And there was an immediate feeling of euphoria. I just felt this energy, and I felt so vibrant. And then this voice spoke to me, and he said, I am your father, you are your father's son. Now, that was raw. I didn't know that at the time. I do now. And I still don't fully understand it myself, but he clearly felt the necessity to introduce himself again to me as an individual, and I still have contact with him as well. And his talking about energies, I do channel him now, and his energies are tremendous. You feel the differences of the energies of consciousness if you channel these beings, and we all have the ability to do this. I'm sure I fell into channeling quite accidentally, really, but we all have these abilities. In fact, I'll just do a quick story in relation to the channeling side, because I think it's important. We all channel. You can chat. You get information while we're chatting now. Sometimes the information will come in, and I'm sure both of you do that. I know you do that. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So when you use those natural human abilities of telepathic communication, downloads and things like this, and channeling, then it expands our collective consciousness. And on this occasion, they said to me, Kevin, we want you to go down to a MUFON conference in Orlando. And I live about 40 minutes from Orlando. And I said, okay, I'll go down. So I'm driving down there. And I said, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know why you're asking me to go down here. But if I'm going here, I want to meet someone that can help me on my journey. I got there. I was very impressed with the meeting. A lot of professional people, a lot of people there. I listened to all the lectures in the morning. It got to lunchtime. I went to the cafeteria, the canteen, to get a sandwich for my lunch, and there wasn't a seat anywhere. I bought my sandwich. I'm looking for a seat, and I couldn't see one. Then I spotted a seat on a table with two ladies. So I went up. I said, do you mind if I sit down and eat my sandwich? They said, no, sit down. So they're chatting away. And then they finished the conversation. I finished my sandwich, and they brought me into the conversation. And one of those ladies there was Dr. Melanie Barton, and she was the person I was there to meet. So we had a chat, we had a conversation, and then Dr. Melanie Barton introduced me to Kathleen Marden. She was one of the speakers at that time, and I listened to her. I knew of her, I didn't know her. Coincidentally, she lives 10 minutes from where I live. And Dr. Melanie Barton arranged us, three of us, to have a lunch. Well, four of us actually. There was me, Kathleen Marden, Denise Stoner, and Dr. Melanie Barton. We met for lunch. We were chatting, and then Kathleen invited me back to her home, as I say, only 10 minutes from where she lives. And I'm telling her about the information I've been given by the Council of Eight. And then Denise said to me, "Kevin, do you know what you're doing?" I said, "No, what am I doing?" She said, "Kevin, you are channeling the information." I said, "Oh." Yeah. I wasn't aware. But looking back, I am, because I wasn't using my own memory. The information was over here, and I was just accessing it. And because of that, we decided to meet at my home once a month on a Saturday. And on the first meeting, we all sat down, we did a meditation, and then Melanie said, "Right, we'll see if we can contact the extraterrestrial." So we did the meditation, and then she said, "Did anybody get any contact?" She went around the room, and she went to Kathleen, no. Denise, no. My wife was there, no. And she said, "What about you, Kevin? Do you get any communication?" I said, "No, nothing at all." She said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, nothing at all." She said, "Nothing." I said, "Well, there's a male stood in front of me, just to the right-hand side of it, up here. She said, "Oh, who is it?" I said, I have no idea." She said, "Well," she said, "Well, ask him." So I said, "Okay." So I asked him, and it was Art, the one that I met in the bathroom when I was 8. And he then channeled through me for 40 minutes. And that started the sessions of channeling once a month on a Saturday. And if your readers are interested, all the questions were transcribed, and over 100 of them, 100 are in this book, Forbidden Knowledge, by Kathleen Marden. And that's Kathleen on the back. Probably many of you will recognise her. So if you're interested in what questions we asked the Council of Eight, with the answers, they're in that book there. So I could go through them, but we don't have time. But it's something that your readers and watchers can look up. And then, talking about books, which we are doing, so I might as well speak. I met another lady. Again, I was guided to go down somewhere. Again, going back to what Jennifer says, you asked this, you've got this knowing to go somewhere. And I went to this. In fact, that was it was a MUFON meeting, a guy talking about astronomy and stuff like that. And I was interested in that. So I went. It was a really good lecture and everything. And then a lady I met there was, she was collecting the money as you went in. It was $10, I think. And her name was Rebecca Renfro. Now, Rebecca's just written a book called Quantum Windows and Dimensions, a Christian woman's journey of faith and ET contact. This is a book. Windows and Dimensions. See?
Awesome.
And that's on the back. And in here, she mentions when she met Art and Dee in 2015, long before I met Rebecca Renfro. So we've now become friends because of that, and I speak to her regularly. And then there's another lady I met at another meeting somewhere in Orlando, and the Council of Eight reached out to her. Her name is Orva Belcia, sorry. And she was contacted by the Council of Eight and channeled the portraits of them all. So with a narrative of how she did it. And again, I met her accidentally at a meeting. We become friends, and
I don't think there's any accidentally in there.
Yeah, no. That's all meant to be.
No, the family is growing. The earthly family is growing bigger, and that's it. And I know another lady, Dr. Karen McLeod of the Exo-Conscious community, and she was listening to a podcast. She goes out walking every day, and she puts her earphones on and listens to podcasts. And it went to a podcast where I was talking, and I was talking about a download I had of the quantum unified field theory. she'd had exactly the same download, verbatim. So she said, "Who is this Kevin Briggs? How come he's got the exact same verbiage of this download that I've got?" Anyway, she knew Becca Hardcastle Wright, who is the founder of the Exo Conscious community. So she contacted her, became a member, and then found that I was a member there. So then we had discussions, we discussed it as a group, and now we've become friends. And she's got contact with different members of the Council of Eight again. So they're reaching out to others independently of me. I've been doing that on my own all my life, quite but now that family is growing. So, and then one last thing before we go is, let me think now, which really follows on from the, I was asked by, again, the Council of Eight to go down to a conference in Miami by Ray Hernandez. He was holding this conference, and he's the director of the Consciousness and Contact Research Institute, I believe. I didn't know him. I'd heard about him, but I didn't know him. I said to him, I contacted him. I said, "I've got a group of extraterrestrials. They would like me to come down and speak to your conference. Would that be okay with you?" He said yes. And he didn't know me. And I wasn't there because I'd already just started speaking out. I went down, I spoke at the conference. It was recorded. And that part of that, hopefully, is going to be in a film that's going to be released later this year. They haven't got a date yet, I don't think. Maybe October sometime, possibly. So I'm in that. But again, Ray Hernandez then reached out to me and asked me to contribute a chapter to his book. He's got 6 volumes of this book. Look,
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's quite a big book.
Amazing.
A big book, yeah.
Yeah, six volumes. A
Greater reality.
All six of these can be downloaded for free as a PDF file if your readers go to agreaterreality.com, and you can download it. And the chapter I have is in volume 5, which is a compilation of experiences like myself. So if you're interested in what the experiences are saying, volume 5 of that is, and you can buy it. I bought it because I'm in it.
Of course.
So I'm just trying to get as much information out to people so they can research it themselves, find the information. And then one other thing, we've talked about deceased people and things. And again, how we are all led and guided on a journey. I live in the country, Central Florida. I've got 5 acres. I've got 2 German Shepherd dogs. I'm out one day. Bearing in mind, I'm in contact with the plants, the trees, the animals, the earth itself. It's part of being who we are. So I'm walking around with my dogs. This rainbow appears 180 degrees, beautiful rainbow. I take a photograph of it, and then Edgar Mitchell speaks to me. He was the 6th man to land on the moon. I didn't know him. I knew of him. And he asked me if I would convey a message to a friend and colleague of his. And I said I would. And that colleague and friend was Dr. Rebecca Hardcastle Wright. I had not heard of her before. I'd heard of Edgar Mitchell. I said I would, and he'd passed, I think, 3 or 4 months earlier. I was aware that he had passed. And anyway, so I contacted Dr. Melanie Barton. I said, "Melanie, I've been given this message from this woman called Dr. Rebecca Hardcastle Wright. I don't know who she is. How would I contact her?" She says, "I think Kathleen Marden knows her." So Kathleen Marden sent an email introducing me. We communicated by email. I gave her the message. We spoke on the phone. It changed the course of her life. She talks about it openly. I've heard her talk about it on podcasts. And but it shows that these extraterrestrials, not only extraterrestrials, Edgar Mitchell, who had passed, who's continuing his work within consciousness, and he worked with Ray Hernandez. I think they called it Free then. That's what they called the group that he worked with. So it shows that because the physical dies, we can still continue the work if we choose to, or we can have a rest and just enjoy being in the spirit realm, as it were. So I think we've covered lots of topics. There's a lot more I can talk about, perhaps.
Awesome.
In fact, what would be a good idea, when this film comes out, because I'm in the film, and I think there's some of the channeling I've done is in the film. If I've kept it all in, I'm probably on the cutting room floor. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see. But when that comes out, perhaps I can come back and we can talk about the film. Perhaps you'll have some more questions. And there's loads of other stuff I can talk about if you're interested. If you're not,
Oh, no, absolutely.
Absolutely. It'd be wonderful to have
That's
you back,
awesome.
especially around the film. That would be great to get the word out for the film and also to be able to talk about the experience.
Well, I'll send you the link. In fact, I think if you just go to A Greater Reality, there's a link for the trailer there. So just agreaterreality.com and you can go and see the trailer. I don't know whether they've published a date yet when it's going to be released, but I know it's going to be soon because I spoke to the producers just recently. So from a 3-year-old boy realizing he's conscious in a physical body again to all this information, this story, and that's what it is. It's a story. It's my story, but it's also all those other people that are connected to that story, and I'm connected to their stories. So that's what's going on. That's the cosmic family that we are a part of. It's like your grandparents helping to educate the grandchildren, and that's what our star families are doing. They're educating individual grandchildren like myself and others, and we are learning. We're all learning together. So I think it's an exciting time to be ahead. Oh, one last thing. I always forget this.
Spiritual consciousness, a personal
journey.
I don't know if you recognize who that is, but
that is your book. Beautiful.
That was the book. That was a book I wrote after Horton D materialized in the bedroom 7 or 8 years ago now. So that was the reason. So in that book, there's a lot of things that we've spoken about, other things as well. So there's loads of. When I realized that all this information that's out there, because I didn't say no, I said yes.
That's how I ended up involved in the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact. Because I had a friend who just said, I know this guy, he's doing this conference, maybe you can volunteer. Do you want me to introduce you? I'm like, yep.
There you see. Now, don't you think once you realize that we've all been guided individually and collectively, then again it goes back to what Jennifer said right at the beginning. It helps with your own evolution. It helps with navigating through the physical realm and the spiritual realm and who we are, the emotions of it, because the emotions have energy in them. They're energetic. So we have to be able to understand them, to use them, to better who we are, so we are happier and healthier. Really, I think that's the key. That's the key.
Absolutely, and that actually is part of why we do this show.
Exactly. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you too. It's just been absolutely. And I've listened to Jennifer's poem several times. It's amazing. It has frequencies of consciousness in there. It has frequencies of emotion in there. And there's a story in there as well. It's fascinating poem. So if your readers and watchers haven't listened to that or seen it, they need to hear it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Yeah, the poem is, well, we did it once on the show and it's been on a couple now. I did it with the Beyond Being Human and then with the Experiencers, United Experiencers Initiative. And it's also written on on my website, so you can find it there as well. But when that came through, I was emotional. So I'm happy to know that it continues to have that energy.
Yeah, I think everything has like a knock-on effect. It wakens people up to the greater reality, to quote Raynandy's book, which we all live in. We just tend to keep ourselves protected in this little cocoon, and we are fearful sometimes to step out of that comfort zone. So, but we're stepping out now.
We are.
Absolutely.
That is why we're all talking.
There we are.
That is what the whole goal is. So that's beautiful.
And I do love the way that, the world, like you said, they're moving us individually and they're moving us collectively, and different things that have happened. Not that it's a cause, but that they are using all of the different things that are happening in our experience to shift reality for us so that we can all come together.
Exactly. Exactly. Once we realise, and I'm sure both of you are aware now, there are more and more people coming to that realisation. We've been lied to for many, many years. We've been kept uneducated about who we are. We've been kept uneducated about our galactic history. Well, now we are teaching ourselves. And I'm sure the request for the reveal will come from the citizens of Earth now. We have to take control of our own evolution with the assistance of the galactic star family. So we do have help.
Mm-hmm.
I was called into a council meeting one day, and on a ship, and the Pleiadians were there, and the Arcturians were there, and they were having this discussion. The Pleiadians were like, "Can we just go and help them? Really, I think they're ready." And the Arcturians like, we have a process. We have to go through the process. And I arrive right as this is happening because they called me in, and I was like standing there listening to this, and then all of a sudden they look at me and they're like, "So, are you guys ready?" I said, "Well, I'm ready. I don't know about the rest of the world, but I'm ready."
Well,
check with the rest of the ambassadors.
There are many that are ready now, aren't there? So but great to the fact that you can travel onto that ship, have that meeting, and then come back and convey it to others. And I think the difficulty is for people to understand how you can do that. And once you understand how you can do that, then you can accept the fact that we're much more than we know. We're much more than we're taught. And I know that because I've been taught outside of the natural education system. And so have the two of you, I'm sure. So we understand that, and we have to share that knowledge. And no one government, no one society can control that now, because we are learning individually, coming together with a collective consciousness, and being responsible for our own evolution. I think that's the key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love how you were sharing about the school and the education piece, right? Because you were having it through your own personal experiences. Some people talk about going into, cosmic schools or spirit schools. But I truly, they are trying to teach us in every facet of our experience. Yeah. And so whether it is coming to you through dreams or through meditation or through interaction with other people or through whatever happens when you're out on your own walk in the middle of nowhere, all of those are opportunities that they're trying to speak to us. And so there isn't one like set way. I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't know if they're talking to me. And it's like, well, tell me about the last, time that you had a deep, shift or change or just something that really hit home. Oh, well, I had this experience when I was out doing such and such and this, and it's like, there you go.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of why, we have a school, Twillow Lifestyle Academy, and part of that is galactic wisdom. There's a galactic wisdom branch. And so we're building that right now and building a galactic ambassadors program. I have a galactic shaman program already, but we're working on that, the ambassadors program, and some exo diplomacy stuff and that type of thing as well. So
what's nice to know is that it shows that there are obviously there's so many out there doing the work that don't get the publicity for what they're doing. But I suspect there's a blueprint, a roadmap that's been orchestrated by our star families, and they're doing it slowly, step by step. And as you said, Tanis, about maybe the Pleiadians or the Arcturians, say, why don't we just go in and tell them? Let's just go in, because there's a process. And we have to do it ourselves, and that's what the three of us are doing here. We're sharing our knowledge and expanding humanity's collective consciousness. So, yeah.
It's a fun process. We're all galactic ambassadors and teachers.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, I have our home play.
Yes. So we do home play. It's kind of homework, but we call it home play because it's not work.
It's from the Sacred Feminine. And so the card that I got is listen to the song of the birds. This message goes way beyond just birds.
Yes.
So listen to the song of the birds. It says, listen, grandchild, you are being sung to. Can you hear them? Turn off your distractions and take a moment to listen to the natural world. Your ears have been blessed with the ability to receive beautiful messages for you. Hundreds of different birds pass into your neighborhood every day. Take notice. Did you know that birdsong heals you? Have you noticed that when you feel a certain emotion, a specific bird will arrive to help transmute that feeling? Watch for them. Listen to them. Like all great musicians and all gifted healers, birds are use vibration to create and change in their surroundings. Get to know their songs and ask them to teach you what you need to know. The birds are your relations and they love you. Honor them with your attention.
Yes. Absolutely. That would be definitely appropriate for ETs as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it has been an amazing hour. Thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us today.
Oh, no, you're welcome. You're welcome.
It's
I've
been
enjoyed it myself.
lovely.
I enjoyed chatting about it. And I enjoyed chatting with other experiences because we all understand it together. We've all got a piece of the jigsaw. When we put those pieces together, it makes us, well, that's why we're here, really. I think we chose to come here from that soul level for this particular time in humanity's history. We'll look back on this and we're a part of that history.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you have a moment actually to stay on, Kevin, please, at the end of the show there. And we will say goodbye to our viewers and thank them for joining us, whether it's now or later. And we're sending you all tons of love. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.